One way we use geometric sequences very often is dealing with money, whether we are saving money in a savings account, a CD, whether we are borrowing money, taking out a loan, we have to deal with interest. And interest is a percent growth, so it can be modeled with a geometric sequence. So for example, say we put $1,000 into an account, that gives us 2.5% annual interest. When we give interest, we always give it in as an annual interest, which is how much you get each year. So our recursive formula would say u sub 0 equals 1,000. We start with u sub 0 because this is before anything happens. U sub n is going to be our previous year's amount, so u sub n minus 1, and we're going to take that times 1 plus, and we're going to say 0.025, because again, that percent is per 100, so we divide that by 100, and this will give us our formula saying how much we have that in an account, as long as we realize that n equals number of years. But when we're dealing with money in banks, you don't deal with just once a year. We deal with this every month. Every month you get a statement. Every month they figure out how much interest they've added to your account. So when we deal with that monthly aspect, that's what we call compounded, and monthly is how often we do it. We say we compounded, that's each time we're adding interest into what we have. So the banks isn't going to give you that 2.5% every month. They give you that about once a year. So to figure out how much you're going to get in a month, we just divide it up by 12. So, and I'll just switch it from a percentage to a decimal right here and say my monthly interest amount, what I get every month, is going to be the 0.025 divided by 12. So that's going to make my recursive formula now, u sub 0 equals 1,000. We're still there. But my u sub n going to be u sub n minus 1, and we're going to be times 1 plus 0.025 divided by 12. And now in this case, my n is going to be my number of months, not number of years. So when we're dealing with this annual interest, it's nice because I want to know how much I have to have after 1 year. I look for u sub 1. If I want to know how much I have after 5 years, I look for u sub 5 is 5 years. But that's when I'm only dealing with this annually, once a year. When I'm dealing with this monthly, my n is number of months, so if I want 1 year, that's 12 months, so I'm looking for u sub 12. If I want 5 years, that's going to be 5 times 12, or 60 months. So it's vitally important when you do this, this compound interest, when you're compounding it some way, we're breaking that interest in parts, we realize what does n stand for. So when we're trying to find out what we have at a certain time, we can use this function, this sequence, correctly. The most common periods of compounding is annually, which is 1 time a year, quarterly, which is 4 times a year, or once a quarter, monthly, which is of course 12 times a year, and daily, which is your 365 times a year. No matter which way we're doing this, we still come down to u sub 0 is your principal. Principal is really the amount of money you start off with. It's just a financial term they use for that. U sub n is your u sub n minus 1 plus your rate divided by c. And c is these values here, how many times you compound in a year. The big thing is when you are using this, remember what n means. Remember that It is U sub 1 is not always 1 year. It depends on what's your rate of compounding. The other thing to remember, and don't forget, is that when we put this R in here, it is the percent as a decimal. So 5% is 0.05. It's not 5. That will mess you up big time.